No DQ Galaxy. We are live with a recap of the 2022 AEW / New Japan Pro Wrestling Forbidden Door pay-per-view. And I say 2022 because I think it's a pretty safe bet that there will be a 2023 edition of this pay-per-view. Anyways, let's get right into it. There are a lot of matches to discuss, a very long show as usual from AEW, but as it is pretty much every time, you get a lot of bang for your buck. We had the buy-in / kickoff show. I'll just run through the matches here real quick. You had Justin Roberts back doing the announcing. You also had the New Japan announcer doing it with him. That was pretty cool. Kevin Kelly from New Japan, for those of you that remember, he was formerly in WWE back in the day, late 90s. He was there for this show, along with Excalibur and Taz. And later on in the show, they brought in Tony Schiavone. And then after that, they brought in Jim Ross for the last couple of matches. We had Hiroki Goto and Yoshihashi defeating QT Marshall and Aaron Solo in the first match. And then after that, Lance Archer defeated Nick Camarado. Third match was the Gun Club. Actually, that was the last match. Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland defeated El Desperado and Kane Maru. I'm not sure how to pronounce that name. And then the final match of the kickoff / buy-in was the Gun Club and Max Caster defeating the New Japan LA Dojo guys in an 8-man tag team match. Now, in that match, Danhausen appeared on the big screen and started playing the Ass Boys song, which led to Austin and Colton Gunn leaving the ringside area. So it was basically 2-on-4 for the entire match. Billy Gunn and Max Caster still managed to get the win over the Dojo guys. And as Anthony pointed out, Kevin Kelly was also in Ring of Honor. Now, let's get to the main card. We had our opening match, which was Chris Jericho, Sammy Guevara, and Minoru Suzuki going up against Eddie Kingston, Wheeler Yuta, and Shota Umino. This was essentially a little preview of what's to come this coming Wednesday, the Blood and Guts cage match. And we did have some build-up for that during this pay-per-view, which goes to show that this Blood and Guts match is a big deal. First AEW show in Detroit. We'll talk more about that later. And there was a stipulation for this match. The winning team would have the advantage in the Blood and Guts match. Things broke down very quickly. Everybody was brawling on the outside, and order was eventually restored. Eddie Kingston wanted a piece of Chris Jericho, but of course, Jericho would tag out to Suzuki. Kingston and Suzuki traded chops, which the crowd absolutely loved. Kingston was doing the machine gun chops, and Suzuki basically just no-sold it. Suzuki did get the upper hand on Kingston. Jericho tagged in, of course, when Kingston was down. And Jericho's team was doing pretty good. The three guys got stereo submissions on their opponents. Eventually, Kingston was able to tag out. You had a bunch of people hitting dives to the outside. Suzuki acted like he was going to do it, but decided not to. And then everybody was back in the ring. Big move after big move. All six guys were down on the mat. Crowd gave them a standing ovation. There was a "This is awesome" chant, and there were a lot of them during this show. Match continued, and then we had Ty Conti on the outside, providing a distraction. Wheeler Yuta was taken out of the equation with the go to hell from Sammy Guevara. Guevara ended up using a baseball bat on Umino when the referee wasn't looking. However, Umino was able to get back in it. He hit Jericho with a brain buster, but Jericho kicked out of that. Umino put Jericho in the walls of Jericho, and they have history. Umino's father is Red Shoes, the referee in Japan, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. And they have that history, and footage was shown from what happened in New Japan. And Kingston got taken out of the equation by Suzuki via the Gotch pile driver. And then Umino was all by himself. Jericho hit him with the Judas effect and scored the 1-2-3 victory. So really fun match to kick off the show. Very entertaining, fast-paced. Crowd was loving every moment of it. So very strong start to the pay-per-view. Next up, we had the winners take all match. You had FTR, the AAA Tag Team Champions, defending against the IWGP Tag Team Champions, and they were defending Jeff Cobb and Great Okan. They were defending their titles against FTR and Roppongi Vice, the third team in the mix, basically the team that was free rolling, getting an opportunity to possibly come in with 0 titles and leave with 2 sets of titles. And for this match, anybody could tag in or out. That was how it went. So you wanted to try to stay in the match as much as possible to try to win it. Very early on into the match, maybe 2 or 3 minutes in, Dax Harwood was selling his shoulder, and the trainer was checking on him. Dax was sent to the back, and he did a good enough job selling here that people thought he might be legitimately hurt. The match continued for a while. Harwood was out of commission, and Wheeler tried to stay in it. And he had to tag out to Trent at one point because he was getting beat down so badly. Roppongi Vice got some offense in the match. Eventually, you had Harwood make his return. His shoulder was taped up, and he got a hot tag. He started cleaning house, but by no means was it over. Roppongi Vice hit strong 0 to Cobb, but Wheeler was able to break up the pin. Crowd chanted AEW. Harwood tagged in, traded some near falls with Rocky Romero, and then FTR was able to hit the big rig, and they pinned Romero 1-2-3. So FTR, now your IWGP Tag Team Champions, on top of being the AAA Tag Team Champions, and maybe we'll see a match with the Young Bucks at some point with all the titles on the line to truly see who the best tag team in the world is. And what a crazy run for FTR. They've held, in the span of like 6 or 7 years, they've held the Ring of Honor Tag Team titles. Ring of Honor Tag Team titles, not AAA, by the way. Are they the AAA Tag Team titles? See, I'm losing track at this point. Like, they're collecting all the titles. They might have both sets of titles. But yeah, I think it was the Ring of Honor Tag Team titles on the line in this. So I screwed that one up. But yeah, they're the Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions, New Japan IWGP Tag Team Champions, former Raw, SmackDown Tag Team Champions, former NXT Tag Team Champions, AEW Tag Team Champions. Like, they've done it all. So really, that's the match you got to have at some point versus the Young Bucks. Winner takes all of the titles. So really good match here with these guys. Love the story with Dax being taken out. He comes back out there, gets the big pop. Well done. People were thinking he might have been legitimately hurt. So anytime you can keep people guessing, including like some of the top wrestling analysts in the world wondering, is he really hurt? Like, you know you're doing a damn good job. Next up, we had the match to crown the first ever All-Atlantic Championship. Pac versus Miro versus Malakai Black versus Clark Connors, who was a replacement, a substitute due to an injury. And he's basically the guy in this match that's going to get beat up most of the time. But he held his own. He did get in some offense. You had Miro dominating a pretty good portion of this match, and he was beating up Connors for a while. And Connors kept trying to take Miro down, wasn't too successful. Pac was going right after Malakai Black. They have their rivalry going on, so they were brawling for a while. And at one point, Black decided to take care of Miro. He pulled a table from under the ring and set it up. He tried to put Miro through it, but was unsuccessful. However, Connors was able to come out of nowhere and spear Miro through the table. Everybody was back in the ring, and then there was a four-way Tower of Doom spot. Miro powerbombed Connors and Black while they were suplexing Pac, and Miro put the game over, submission onto Pac, but then Black spit mist into Miro's eye. And Pac, whatever his name is, Neville, he came off the top with the 450 splash to Black and then put the brutalizer submission on Connors and scored the victory to become the very first AEW All-Atlantic champion. I have to say, I was a little surprised. I was not expecting Pac to win this one. I thought it was going to be Miro or Malakai Black. Pac would have been my third pick in this match. So interesting choice to have Pac win, but great match here with these guys. Very enjoyable. Next up, we had the Dudes with Attitudes, Sting, Darby Allin, and Shingo going up against the Bullet Club, the Young Bucks, and El Phantasmo. They did a little cool segment with Sting to start off this match. The lights went out. Sting did not show up for his entrance, and then when the Bullet Club were coming out, the lights went out. When they came back on, Sting was on the top of the circle entranceway, and he jumped off that. Crowd went nuts for that, of course. And Bullet Club eventually, once the match got going, they got the upper hand for a while. They worked over Darby Allin, and they were showboating before they would rake the back of Allin. They would do all these flips and stuff, just totally being cocky and arrogant. They taunted Sting. Hikuleo, who was out there but not part of the match. It was originally an 8-man match, but they had to change it to a 6-man due to an illness. Hikuleo was attacking Sting on the outside of the ring, and Sting eventually got a hot tag. And weird thing that Phantasmo was doing, he was trying to twist the nipples of Sting. Yeah. And that did not work, of course. And Hikuleo was trying to interfere again. He got on the apron. The Bucks hit super kicks to Sting, but he totally no-sold the super kicks. He had a double scorpion death drop to both of the Bucks. Darby Allin had a coffin drop to Hikuleo on the outside to get him out of the equation. And Sting twisted the nipples of Phantasmo, and then you had Shingo tag in, and he got the pinfall over Phantasmo. Good guys pick up the victory here. Hell of a match. I mean, you have to give them credit. Sting is 63, 64 years old, whatever it is, and they know how to work around his limitations and get the absolute most out of him. So hats off to everybody involved in this. Like Sting can go out there and still be part of a great match. Everybody else knows what to do, and they use Sting at the absolute right moments. Very well done here. So big thumbs up for this one. And then we had Thunder Rosa going up against Toni Storm, which, believe it or not, was the first singles match on this main card. And it was a very good match here. They had a feeling out process in the beginning. Crowd was doing the dueling chants. Things started to get a little bit heated when Storm slapped Rosa. Rosa slapped her back. Rosa hit Storm with a jumping stunner. She built up some momentum. They brawled on the outside for a while. And Rosa was trying to give Storm a DVD on the apron, but Storm countered with a German suplex, hit her with a DDT on the floor, got her back in the ring. It went back and forth. Rosa hit the Fire Thunder driver, but Storm managed to kick out of that, and Rosa had to figure something else out, and she busted out Dustin Rhodes' Final Reckoning. Of course, she talked about before, and they've acknowledged it on TV, her being mentored by Dustin. She hit the Final Reckoning and finally got the win, showed some sportswomanship afterwards, shook the hands of Storm. Very good match here. I mean, definitely not at the level of the other matches up to this point, but still by no means a bad match. Very solid encounter back and forth between these two. Nice, successful title defense for Rosa. And then we had the IWGP United States title match. Will Ospreay defending against Orange Cassidy. And this is when Jim Ross was brought in for commentary. Very entertaining match here. Like, I never thought for a second that Orange Cassidy would be winning this, but it was still really good match here between these two. You knew that these guys would have a very fun match. And Cassidy wasn't doing too much of his so-called mind games. Like, he would put his hands in his pockets, but he was staying pretty aggressive in this match. You had Aussie Open out there, and they were helping out Ospreay at one point, helping him launch into Cassidy on the outside of the ring. Ospreay slowed things down for a bit, was working over Cassidy, but then he was going to finish off Cassidy, and Cassidy just collapsed. And Cassidy eventually started to make his comeback, put his hands in his pocket, did his version of Ospreay's kicks for the mind games, and then started to turn up the intensity. You had United Empire getting involved again, but Cassidy took them out. And Cassidy busted out some big moves, knocked Ospreay into the little corner camera that they have. He hit the beach break, but Ospreay kicked out of that. Cassidy went for the orange punch, but Ospreay countered with a cutter, hit a lariat. He hit the hidden blade, but Cassidy kicked out of that. And then Ospreay was eventually able to beat Cassidy with the Stormbreaker to retain the championship. And afterwards, you had Cassidy attacked by the United Empire. Roppongi Vice ran down to make the save, and then Shibata came out. I'm not familiar with him at all. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his first name, but he's another New Japan guy. He came out there and had a physical confrontation with Ospreay, and he got the best of him. Ospreay fled the scene, and then Shibata put on Orange Cassidy's sunglasses for the big feel-good moment at the end. And Gary Joe thought it was the match of the night, so there you go. Hell of a match for these guys. Very entertaining. Like I said, nitpicking. Only criticism I have would just be that Orange Cassidy, I felt, was never a serious contender to win this. But live crowd was buying into the near falls, and I'm sure most of the people watching at home were buying into the near falls. So at the end of the day, that's what counts. Then we had Zack Sabre Jr. versus TBD, the mystery opponent chosen by Bryan Danielson. And of course, it was no surprise. We all pretty much expected it. He was the top guy rumored for this spot. Former WWE star, although he left on his own, was not fired. His contract expired. So a different scenario. Cesaro, Claudio. He is back as Claudio, and he got a massive reaction from the fans, as you might expect. I mean, it was maybe the biggest pop of the night, and there were a lot of big ones on this show. And he went right in for the kill. Like right when the bell rang, he hit the uppercut, neutralizer, but Sabre kicked out of it. And you know what? I know this is unpopular, but I would have liked to have seen a 10-second match here just because the show is so long and it's a nice change of pace. But you know what? I get it. You have to have a competitive match for political reasons. Sabre's got to have a good showing, and you got to give the fans their clinic that they want to see. But for me personally, I would have loved a 10-second match. Cesaro just comes in there, beats him 10 seconds, and that's that. But I get why they didn't do that. They had this pretty long match, and Sabre Jr. was getting in a lot of offense. But here I am thinking, okay, we know Cesaro's winning this. Like, let's just get it over with. But they had to have their clinic, and to be fair, it was a really good match. I will give them that, but I'm kind of here just waiting for it to end, with all due respect to these guys. And maybe that's what happens when you're not familiar with the New Japan guy, and you know Cesaro coming in, big deal. He's not losing. But it was a really good match. Sabre Jr. was doing the mat wrestling, working over the arm, working over the knee. And he was manipulating the joints. He got a lot of offense in. And it is Claudio. I have to get used to that. It took me a while to stop calling Bryan Danielson Daniel Bryan. So it might be an adjustment for me. But I will get to it. Mo Camera says his name is Claudio, not Cesaro. And they were on the outside of the ring. And there was a cool moment where Claudio had him up in the middle of a submission hold, picked him up and walked up the steps while carrying him. Of course, Claudio, mad strong. And the match continued to go back and forth. Sabre Jr. was doing some uppercuts, and that kind of fired up Claudio, excuse me. Claudio did hit the big swing, but couldn't do like a lot of rotations because the damage was done from Sabre Jr. And eventually Claudio did pick up the win with a power bomb. So maybe that'll be his new finisher moving forward. The Ricola bomb, whatever they call it. Really good match here between these guys. Predictable, but very well done. And then we had the IWGP World Championship match. Fatal four-way, which is rare in New Japan matches. They usually don't do four-ways for a singles championship. Jay White defending against Adam Page versus Adam Cole versus Okada. Crowd was absolutely loving this. There was a holy shit chant before the bell even rang to start it. And the crowd gave them a preemptive standing ovation, knowing they were about to see an epic showdown four ways here. And the story early on was that Jay White and Adam Cole were working together. Jay White quickly went to the outside. Adam Cole went to the outside, being very heelish. And whenever they got the opportunity, they were working together. You had them fighting on the outside of the ring. Cole and White suplexed Page on the ramp. They worked over Okada for a while. But Okada started to fight back, and Okada sent both of them to the outside over the barricade, and then Okada jumped over the barricade onto them. Eventually, White and Cole regained the upper hand, and Cole turned on White, turned against him with the backstabber, of course, great move to betray him with. And Okada and Page got back into the mix. All four guys ended up down. Crowd was chanting, "This is awesome," of course. Page hit the dead eye to White, hit the buckshot lariat, but Okada broke it up at the last second. Crowd was chanting, "Fight forever." Page and Okada were trading blows, and then Page got pulled to the outside of the ring. He got sent into the ring post. He was out of the equation again. And Cole was back in the ring with Okada. Cole managed to avoid the Rainmaker, but something was wrong with Cole. Like, he fell down and he was in the corner. White came in, hit Okada with the Blade Runner, and then White went over to Cole, went for the pin, and it felt like Cole was supposed to kick out of it, but he didn't. So that was the end of the match, pretty much out of nowhere. White pins Adam Cole. Felt very anticlimactic. Unfortunate ending to otherwise a fantastic match that these guys were having. You had the trainer coming down. Young Bucks came down to check on Cole. And I saw some people saying maybe his shoulder popped out or something. And Cole was injured over the past couple weeks leading up to this pay-per-view too. He was able to leave the ring on his own. So yeah, other than the unfortunate ending, match was great. Thought it was excellent. And the crowd was just completely eating it up, and never a dull moment in it other than the ending. Building Nexus sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Says, how about this? Omega beats Switchblade at Wrestle Kingdom 17, leading to Okada versus Omega 5 at next year's Forbidden Door on American soil, where Okada wins. I'm sure they're considering something like that. No Kenny Omega on this show whatsoever. You have to think Omega will be back for next year, and they'll do something like that. Do that match. They had so many great matches in Japan. Have them do a match on American soil. I think that's very much a possibility. I would not be shocked at all to see that. And then we had the main event match, Jon Moxley versus Hiroshi Tanahashi for the interim AEW World Championship. Moxley came down through the crowd, of course, with William Regal. And they were keeping it clean in the beginning. Friendly feeling out process, which quickly got intense. Tanahashi was doing his air guitar taunt, and Moxley started to get angry. So they started trading blows. And Tanahashi got Moxley down with a modified Indian Deathlock. Moxley got to the rope, and then Moxley put on a submission, a cloverleaf to Tanahashi. They ended up on the outside of the ring. Moxley told the timekeeper to get the F out of the way, and then Moxley put Tanahashi through the timekeeper's table with a Uranagi. Tanahashi barely beat the 10 count, so Moxley was trying to get the cheap victory to win the title, and that kind of turned him heel to the live crowd. It was interesting how this match played out. Moxley was pretty much the heel at this point, although Moxley ended up getting busted open, which is odd if he's being the heel. He's bleeding like crazy, like just gushing blood. And I pretty much expected this. No blood up until the main event. It's Jon Moxley. I figured there would be blood in this one. And Tanahashi got control for a while, but then Moxley hit the paradigm shift. However, Tanahashi kicked out of it, and Tanahashi came back. Moxley continued to bleed like crazy. Tanahashi got several close pinfall attempts, multiple near falls, but then Moxley got on a sleeper submission. Crowd was chanting for Tanahashi. They were chanting "Go Ace." They were booing Moxley pretty hard at this point. And Tanahashi did escape the submission, but then Moxley hit the Death Rider and scored the pinfall victory. Finish, it wasn't botched, but it felt kind of flat. I feel like the crowd wanted to see the New Japan guy win the title here. Like that's how it was playing out. But then Moxley won. So yeah, it did feel a little bit flat. Match was very good, although I feel like it was maybe on a normal pay-per-view, it would have been a great main event, but it felt like the fifth or sixth best match on this show. And that's how good the undercard was. The undercard was just on fire. One great match after another. And the main event didn't quite feel at the level of those other matches. And granted, it was a one-on-one match too, but it didn't feel like an all-time classic world title match or anything. So the last two matches, the finish of that match, the four-way match was flat, obviously, with the Adam Cole injury, and then this main event didn't quite live up to the expectations, I think, with how great the rest of the show was. You had a beatdown afterwards. Chris Jericho, Daniel Garcia came down. Then you had Eddie Kingston, Pride and Powerful, Wheeler Yuta come down. Rest of the Jericho Appreciation Society showed up. You had this big brawl. Jericho's crew was getting the upper hand, but then Claudio ran down. And at this point, like the crowd also felt pretty tired. Like there wasn't a big reaction at the end here. Maybe the crowd just didn't want to see the angle to set up Dynamite. Maybe that's what it was. But yeah, they basically closed the pay-per-view with a brawl to set up the blood and guts cage match, which is fine. You want to set that up, and the pay-per-view buyers got a hell of a show. So I can't think there's too much room for complaint. That was the ending. Claudio came down, cleaned house, did the big swing, did like 15, 20 rotations, some crazy number. Pay-per-view was awesome. Like I expected it to be a great show, despite it having a lot of people I'm not familiar with. Top to bottom, like this was one of the best cards in terms of the execution and quality of any pay-per-view I've ever seen. Like it was top tier quality from start to finish. Were a few issues, so I'm not going with an A+, but I will give it a solid A. Teaching in Color X gave it, or didn't give it a letter grade, just sent in a $2 super chat and says, do you think that there were any new viewers from New Japan Pro Wrestling? I'm sure that there were some viewers from Japan checking out AEW, and I'm sure there were some people out there tuning in out of curiosity. So New Japan might be getting some new viewers out of this for sure. I could definitely see some AEW, some American wrestling fans giving New Japan a chance after this. I mean, I definitely think it was a win-win situation for everybody involved. And I do think overall the pay-per-view was a success, and we'll have to see what the pay-per-view buys are for this show and see if they were able to have a similar number to what Double or Nothing did. If it's close, then I would say it's absolutely a success as far as the pay-per-view goes. But yeah, they drew 15, 16,000 fans in Chicago, although the scalpers did lose out a little bit. Like there were $3 upper deck cheap seats for this show. You could have saw the pay-per-view live for $3. Like I'm guessing like $6, $7 with fees and all that crap, but still a lot cheaper than buying the pay-per-view, and you could have been there live for it. But overall, I think it was a great show. Definitely worth giving it a shot. And again, it might not be your cup of tea if you're not familiar with all the guys, but the quality of the matches was very high throughout the entire show. And it's one of those shows where somebody who does the star ratings, like probably every match is going to be over 4 and probably several 5-star matches on this card. And I would agree with that. Like in terms of the quality, one of the best pay-per-views I've ever seen, period. So thumbs up to everybody involved for going out there, and everybody going out there trying to have the best match possible. And for a 4 and 5 hour show if you're including the buy-in. Like it flew by pretty quickly, I thought. Like every match was pretty fast paced and it was just fun. It never really got too tiresome until like the very end. And that's when I was starting to feel the fatigue. I would still prefer a 3 hour show or even a 2.5 hour show. But as far as the bang for the buck goes, I think they definitely delivered. So that's it, everyone. You can check out the full results over on NoDQ.com. There's some short video clips you can see on there. And stay tuned for all the latest regarding Claudio and what's coming up with Blood and Guts. NoDQ.com. We'll keep you updated with that. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Have a great night. And remember to say yes to NoDQ.com. See you all next time.